Let me go to Venessa Bobb from the National Autistic Society.
My name is Venessa Bobb and I live in Wandsworth in London. I am 47 years old, a parent of an autistic child. I'm here with the National Autistic Society. My question is about autism awareness amongst the black and minority ethnic communities.
And specifically, what is the question? Sorry, because
From my own experience and other parents I've spoken to, understanding and acceptance of autism spectrum conditions is often lower in the black, Asian, minority ethnic community. I do a lot of work to try and increase understanding of autism amongst the BME communities in my area, but what would you do if you were elected a London mayor to increase understanding and awareness amongst the black ethnic minority communities of autism and other hidden disabilities?
Hi Vanessa. So the Mayor currently is in charge of public health inequality. I want the Mayor to be given the powers over leadership and coordination for health across London, physical, mental, social, as well as public health as well. That would mean that he or she would make sure that we dealt with the issue of education of being. In the BNE community, there is a lot of stigma around a number of the things we're talking about today. Not simply autism, but mental health and other issues as well. So we need to micro-target the resources to those communities where actually, if they knew more about it, they could befriend, they could help, they could assist, and remove some of the stigma. One of the things we've talked about is schools. Actually, teachers in some of the schools, governors, don't understand the importance of inclusive education, some of the additional things you need to provide for children with autism. And it's a really important issue. And look, as the population of our city is rising, so it follows, therefore, that there will be more young people with autism. There will be more members of the BME communities with autism, so we've got to be aware about these sorts of issues.
Okay, thank you very much. I understand you have to leave suddenly a bit earlier than we thought, is that right?
15 minutes ago, yeah.
15 minutes ago. Okay, well, another 10 or so. We'll try and accommodate that, but let me go to Zach on this.
Thank you very much. I think the role of education generally is absolutely essential. And I'm proud of my own area. I represent part of Richmond Borough and part of Kingston Borough. And on the Richmond side, I genuinely think we are leading the way in terms of breaking down the barriers between different forms of education. Now, I remember when one of our local schools, now an academy, was championing, the head teacher was championing a cause which involved effectively dismantling a very, very dilapidated SEN school next door, with a view to incorporating it into better conditions in the school that she ran. And there were a lot of people in the community who were not happy about it. They felt that it might damage the quality of education in the school that their kids were going to. And there was all kinds of ancillary petitions and various activities designed to stop that from happening. But she ploughed on, and I backed her every step of the way, with the effect that today, what was an embarrassment in my borough, really Victorian conditions, a building that should have been pulled down years ago, has now been removed, and the education that happened in that school is now happening in 3 mainstream schools in the borough. And it is, I think, and I'd be willing to wager on this, the best example of how those barriers are broken down in any other borough in London, or possibly even the country. And I believe that the children now, the mainstream children in the school, will grow up, and I believe that they will find it much easier to understand differences that exist between different people, and I believe the quality of the education for everyone at the school, mainstream or SEN, has gone through the roof as compared to how things were before. I think that's a big part of this. But ultimately, the question you've asked is about education, more generally, public education. And for that, as Mayor, I will rely, as I will on many other areas of discussion, on working with the organisations that understand these issues far better than I do, people on the front line. Disability organisations, representative organisations, I will take my advice from them, and through a czar in City Hall who will make sure that everything I do, every decision I take is taking the disability in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Caroline.
for any parent with a child with autism, it is a huge, huge thing to live with and to learn to live with. And it's a question of getting your friends, the people you work with, the people at your child's school to understand what having autism means for your child and what it means for their relationship with your child. I have huge, huge admiration for all parents of young people with autism. Obviously it's a spectrum, and some young people with autism have much, much more extensive needs than others. But certainly in City Hall, I know that Charlotte would want to be listening to the people, both people with autism themselves and to their families, their carers, so that... yes. Sorry, I'm sorry I lost the plot on the question. Okay. In terms of making sure then that DME communities take on board autism and also taking on board what it means, well, I think it does actually matter for the carers and the families of people who have children with autism, but making sure that we are bringing into City Hall, that we are listening to BME communities who, if someone like you were to, sorry, your name's Venessa. Venessa, I think we would need to get you into City Hall to advise what needs to be done, because I suspect that you've probably got some good ideas, and perhaps within City Hall will be the resources to be able to act on those ideas so that we can actually change current practice, so that there is more awareness. Sorry, I hope that's good enough.
Sorry, Venessa, did you want to say? Do you want to come back?
Okay.
You don't have to.
No, I will. What I think is important, my experience is I went to 4 tribunal appeals, and because my son, I don't like to use that word, high functional autistic, I had to constantly keep him battling with the local authorities until I had to isolate myself from everybody, family, friends, everybody, because nobody understood the fact that when you've got somebody who's high functioning, they need just as much support. It's not just children, it's adults as well. Yeah. So that's but I know there's a lot of people from other communities, the Polish, I would say the Muslim community, Spanish, Turkish, and a lot of them feel that they're being not represented. Yes, you can put somebody say autism, but everybody's journey is very different. And with my son who's autistic and ADHD, I've had to go through a long journey where I've had to find everybody. It's not just the local, it's families, friends, it's society. And because it's a social condition, we've got to look at social safety awarenesses. We've got a lot of young girls as well getting caught up in sexual exploitation. Then you've got a lot of the young boys, like my son, when he likes to wear a hood, people automatically think that he's in a gang. So I don't want him to be out on the street. So it's looking at the bigger picture. It's about the police, it's about the local authority, it's about the law, on their heads, or even if they're, as they say, awkward behaviour, it doesn't mean that they're being awkward. It's basically about the sensory environment. So that's what we've got to look at as well.
Thank you very much. And Vanessa, thank you for that question and giving us some detail there. I'm afraid I think your story is probably not uncommon amongst some parents in similar situations to you across London. I think what we've got to do actually is increase the understanding and awareness for all communities in London on autism. So I think a lot of us don't have the detailed knowledge that we probably should have. And clearly some of that does need to be targeted at particular communities, as you highlight, the BME community. I want the Mayor of London to have greater control over health services in London. It's really shocking that Manchester is leading the way and now able to run its NHS and other services, and we're not in London yet, we're the capital city. Something's gone wrong there. We've got to have far greater say over our health services. And that includes the ability to be able to run London-wide and targeted public health campaigns. a few years ago the money was going to be top sliced and that City Hall was able to run those campaigns. Unfortunately, the government went back on their promise there. We don't have that ability and that funding, and I think that's regrettable. We've also got to make sure staff across things like the transport network fully understand people with autism and are able to help them more. And I just want to make one final point. We've been talking various questions about inclusive education. I want also the Mayor to have a greater say over education in the capital, in terms of school-based planning, in terms of nursery planning, something dear to my heart as a parent to a toddler, but also making sure that we have one London Schools Commissioner. This government's divided London into three. We've got 3 schools commissioners. That is wrong. And we need to make sure, yes, we need inclusive education, but there are some times where a young person actually does need to be in a very special school. We need to make sure those places are provided in London so that those young people aren't having to trek halfway across the capital city to get the education they deserve.